What's up YouTube? It's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel. And today, today I have a very interesting deck profile I did not think I would ever work on, but yeah, I decided to work on it, and it's Sky Striker. And you guys are wondering, wait a minute, why Sky Striker? I'm gonna be honest. For those who don't know, the Sky Striker archetype was released in Dark Saviors about a few years ago. And it became one of the most broken decks in the format. Having cards, having hand traps being utilized a lot more often in a deck like Sky Striker. Being able to utilize a bunch of random, just a bunch of random everyday cards, excuse me, cards like, Mystic Mine, and just a bunch of other random cards is what made the Sky Striker deck look extremely meta. But once Konami started to limit, ban and then eventually limit cards such as Engage, Hornet Drones, multi-roll, the deck is still meta. It was still competitive, but it just needed a bit of a upgrade, I guess you could say. And they gave us that upgrade in the form of cards such as Rose, Linkage, and even also Zeke as well, which I believe Zeke was released in Dual Overload, if I remember right. So it's been a while, actually. It's been a while since the card has been released, but still, this build that I have is pretty nuts, to say the very least. So hopefully you guys are ready for this video, for this deck profile. If you guys are, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. Let's get straight into it. First up we have the DPE package. So we have the Dasher and the Celestial and the 2 Fusion Destiny to pair off with the Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer, because DPE is just a fucking house. And then of course we got the Surgical Striker Ham. We're only running 1 copy. I know some people prefer to put this at 2 or 3 to maximize it. I think it's just better at 1 because it's a kaiju, and also two, it has another effect where it reads, when this card is destroyed by battle, you can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. With the fact that we have the 3 effect Veiler in the deck, there's a card in the extra deck that can actually ensure that can actually turn both the Veiler and the Hamp into that 1 synchro. But you guys are wondering, what is that synchro? Don't worry, we'll get to that soon. We'll get to that once we get into the extra deck. But basically he's essentially your kaiju, I guess you could say, for the whole deck. It's an 8-star, 2500 beat stick. Yes, it does have a effect where you can pop a card, but until he gets destroyed and that effect does get triggered, it's essentially an 8-star 2500 vanilla beat stick, basically, which is pretty cool. And then for the Sky Striker monsters, we got 3 Ray, 2 Rose, which is pretty much the standard for the most part. I know some people have. I know I've seen decks where both Ray and Rose are at 3. I'm actually deciding to put this at 2 because of the fact that because of the fact that because of the fact that you've got so many ways to bring back Ray from your graveyard. I think one of them is where is it? Where is it in the extra deck? What is it? I'm trying to remember. I want to say it's Shizuku? Or Zeke. I think it might be Zeke. I don't remember. I want to say it was one of these. I don't remember which one it was. But basically with Ray, she's a one card link. So her effect is a quick effect which reads, obviously you contribute this card, summon a striker, a Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. While this card is in your grave, if a face up, Sky Striker Ace Link monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, summon this card. Rose, I believe, has the exact same effect. So basically, you don't need three of each. It's only a three and a 2 because you could just summon them both from your graveyard constantly and just go into more of your links and then just go off from there, which is pretty cool. And then for our hand traps, we got the 3 Ash, the 2 Bell, and of course the 3 effect Valor to round up the monsters. I know that there's not a whole lot of monsters, but with Sky Striker decks you really don't need monsters. The only monsters you need are just the Ray and the Rose for the most part. Moving on into the spells, we got a fuck ton of them. We've got the one Sky Striker Maneuver Jammy Waves. This card is actually pretty nuts because this card is basically back row removal, and also if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can pop a monster on your opponent's field, which could potentially break boards, but it depends on what their board looks like, which is pretty nice. So it's a nice little MST trap hole rolled into one card, which is pretty cool. We got the Harpy's Feather Duster because back row removal, you gotta need it. We got the 1 reinforcement of the army. Rhoda is only in here. Is only in here to search out the Ray. If you don't have Ray in your hand and you have Rhoda is basically the one way to get Ray on to your hands, which is pretty nice. We got the 2 Fusion Destiny. If 1 Fusion Destiny is in your grave, you have a second to go into the DPE package, which is pretty nice. Then of course we got the Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. This card is a house. This is essentially your pot of greed. So if you guys have never seen this card before, and I'm actually using the alternate art because the alternate art actually looks pretty cool. I'm gonna be honest, the alternate art looks pretty cool. But the effect reads: if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, add 1 Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except this card. And if you have 3 or more spells in your grave, you can draw 1 card. So it's essentially your pot of greed for the whole deck, which is really nice. We got the Metal Foes Fusion, which is an odd choice. But what's cool about this card is that if this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle it back into your deck and draw a card. So it's basically an endless loop of draw power to get into your so you can see your cards such as your Shark Cannons, your Call Buys, your Sky Striker Mobilize Linkages, Fusion Destinies, whatnot, and just overwhelm your opponent that way, which is really nice. We got the 1 Afterburners, which is basically the reverse Jammy Wave. So what Afterburners does is, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target a face-up monster on the field, destroy it. And then if you have 3 or more spells in your grave, you can destroy a spell trap on the field. So it's basically the same as Jammy Waves, only the roles are reversed. So instead of popping the set back row and then the monster, it's pop the monster then the back row, which is really nice. So you do have a bit of back row removal, which is really cool. We got the 3 mobilized linkage to go to for you to transfer, for you to go, especially during the battle phase. You can go from Hayate to Zeke, and then from Zeke to Kagari, and then from Kagari to Shizuku, to potentially go potentially have game on board, basically, which is really nice. And not only that, it also has another effect where it also has the effect where it says that if you have at least 1 light and 1 dark Sky Striker monster on your field or in your graveyard, the summon monster, which could be your Kagare or Kaina, gains 1,000 attack. So if you have Ray and Rose in your graveyard, that's an additional 1,000, which is actually pretty nuts. I believe we're still missing a light Sky Striker, so we might get that pretty soon, but still, that's pretty cool. Next up, we got the one call by, because obviously hand traps could be a pain in the ass. Speaking of call by, we actually have 2 copies of Shark Cannon, which is essentially 2 more copies of call by, but it also has a DDR effect where it reads if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target a monster your opponent controls, banish it. Or if you have 3 or more spells in your grave, you can special summon that monster to your field instead, but it cannot attack. So it's sort of like a really weird Snatch Steal DDR type of effect. But as long as you're able to use that monster as link material to go into something like Zeke, and then just go off from there and potentially go into an Axis code, you essentially just have game right there, which is really nice. We got the 1 Hornet Drones because obviously it is token spam, and ironically enough, I believe you can use the Hornet Drones to go into your link plays, but you can't use them to go into your Exceeds plays, which is kind of hilarious. Next up, we've got the 3 Widowmaker, which is essentially your Imperm, but it also acts as sort of like a Snatch Steal, which is really, really cool. So the effect reads: if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target a face-up effect monster on the field, negate that face-up monster's effects until the end of the turn. Then if you have 3 or more spells in your grave, take control of it until the end phase. Yeah, so it basically, it's an Imperm Snatch Steal rolled into 1, which is really cool. We got the one multi-roll just to further ensure that that you can extend your plays just a little bit. So the effect reads: once per turn, you can target 1 other card you control, send that card to the grave. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell card activations for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. You can only gain the previous effect once per turn. Once per turn during the end phase, you can set a Sky Striker. You can set Sky Striker spells with different names from your grave up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated this turn while this card was face up on your field, but banish them when they leave the field. So the reason why I chose... So here's the thing. I'm actually running the one pot of acquisitiveness, and the reason being is because of the multi-roll, because of the fact that you're banishing cards from your field when once you've activated those spells, and with pot of acquisitiveness, you can just bring them back and you get to draw a card. And I just realized I may have made a faux pas with the side, so give me a second here. Let's see. And there we go. There we go. I'm kind of made a faux pas, and I decided to do 2 avarice, and 2 pot of acquisitiveness. 2 pot of acquisitiveness. Can't speak. So I'll get to the side deck a little bit later on, but basically multi-roll just ensures that you get to trigger off your spells a lot more, even more, to just break your opponent's board, which is really nice. And then to round up the spells, we've got the two Sky Striker Airspace Area 0, which this card is absolutely insane. This card reads: you can target one other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 excavated Sky Striker card to your hand and shuffle the rest into the deck. Then, if you excavate a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the grave. Targeted card to the grave. If this card in the field zone is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this basically just ensures that you're able to see your engage, your afterburners, pretty much any of your one-ofs if you need to go into those one-ofs really badly, which is really nice. And also to the oddest choice to play in a deck like Sky Striker, unless it feels like a last resort type of deal, is Mystic Mine. And I'm only running 2 copies just because of the fact that you really don't want to see Mystic Mine all that much, because of the fact that you've got cards such as the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, you've got the Kagare, you've got the Kaina, you've got the Hayate, you got all these different monsters that you can use, that you can summon. But if you summon them while you have Mystic Mine on board, and you have more monsters than your opponent does, you're pretty much just fucked. So that's why I chose to only run 2. And then we've got a single copy of Awaken the Dragon, which you're probably wondering, why? Why a single copy of Awaken the Dragon? Once we get to the extra deck here in a second, you guys will understand why. But what's cool about Waking the Dragon is the fact that it's just a powerhouse. It's an old school card from, I think, I want to say, what was it, Flames of Destruction, like somewhere around there. So it's a pretty nutty card. This was one of the cards that helped you go into your Ray Raptor Ultimate Falcon, if I remember right. Yes, your Ultimate Falcon. What does Ultimate Falcon say anyway? Unaffected by other card effects, you can detach a material from this card. For the rest of the turn, all monster your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. If this card has a Ray Raptor monster's material, it gains this effect. Once per turn during the end phase, you can make all monster your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack. Also, if your opponent controls no face-up monsters, inflict 1,000 damage. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. You would literally need to run this in with Ray Raptors, which is kind of weird, but for some reason, it was a really weird Waking the Dragon target for some reason, so I'm not sure why. But that pretty much rounds up the main deck. For the extra deck, I'm going to go from Links to Fusion just to show you guys how crazy this extra deck is. So, first up, we got the 1 Link Karibo, because of the fact that you've got the Effect Veiler, and also you got the Hornet Drones, which you can you can just link the Hornet Drones off into the Link Karibo and just combo off from there. We got the two Hayate, which has a nice little battle trick where it reads that he can attack your opponent directly, and if she were to and if she battled, you basically get to treat Hayate as a foolish burial. So Hayate is actually not too bad. It's a nice foolish burial. It helps excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. She basically can just help you dump your Rose to your graveyard, and if Hayate were to be removed from the field, Ray and Rose come out. You basically have yet 2 more Sky Strikers to your Sky Striker links, if you will, which is really nice. We got the one Kaina, which is a kind of an odd one, because I've seen decks that run 2, but I decided to put one in the main, one in the side, just as a safety measure of course. But Kaina's effect reads, if this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack until the end of your opponent's turn. Each time you activate a spell, a Sky Striker spell, or its effect, gain 100 life points. Immediately after this effect resolves. After the card or effect resolves. You can only special summon Kaina once per turn. So, yeah, so basically it's a way to... So it's basically another version of Widowmaker, but the only difference is that you don't take control of it, and you gain 100 life points every time you activate a card, like say Jammy Waves or Shark Cannon or Linkage, Afterburners, Engage, Hardened Drones, Widowmaker, Multi-Roll, any of your Sky Striker spells, you gain life points, which is not too bad. Yes, it is a measly 100, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? That measly 100 points could really be beneficial. Who the fuck knows? Next up, we've got the 2 copies of Kagari. This is sort of like one of your, I guess, your main win cons, I guess you could say. So the effect reads, if this card is special summoned, you can target one Sky Striker spell in your grave, add it to your hand. Gains 100 attack for each spell in your grave. You can only special summon Sky Striker Kagari once per turn. So, because there are 23 spells in the fucking main, and it's got 15, so let's see, 15 plus 23, that's literally 30, it can go up to 3,800, plus if you have, plus, because of the fact that you have 12 additional spells in, because I have an additional 12 spells in the side deck, guess what? 5,000 attack it can potentially go up to. That's pretty insane. So Kagari is sort of like your main win con. So if you're able to go normal summon Ray, activate Rose's effect, special summon her, link Ray off into the Hayate, and then link Rose into the Kagare. As long as you have that, you essentially you could potentially just have game on board, which is just absolutely insane. Then of course we got the 3 copies of Shizuku. She's basically your spell trap Rhoda, which is really cool. And what's even more insane is that if you have Hayate, Kagari, and Shizuku, dude, you're gonna have one hell of a crazy board, because Hayate can attack your opponent directly. Kagari can give herself an additional 100 attack for each spell in your grave, and Shizuku can force your opponent's monsters to lose 100 attack and defense for each monster in your graveyard, for each spell in your graveyard. And what's even more cool about Shizuku is that during the end phase, if she was special summoned during that same turn, you can add a Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand. In which case, if you don't have access to your Shark Cannon in your hand, you can just search out the Shark Cannon, set both it and the call by, and you're pretty much just good to go from there, which is really nice. And then of course we got the one Zeke, because Zeke is Zeke. Zeke's effect reads, must be Link summoned. You can only special summon Zeke once per turn. If this card is Link summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field, banish it until your opponent's next end phase. Once per turn, you can target one other card you control. This card gains 1,000 attack, then send the targeted card to the grave. So it's kind of weird that you have to break your own board, but as long as you have excuse me, as long as you have access to the multi-roll, to your single multi-roll, you can just bring that spell back and you're just off to the races there. And then we got the one Access Kotaku, which is which is a bit weird that Access Kotaku would be in a deck like Sky Striker. But what's really interesting is the fact that if you do have, let's say you do have the Ray, you've got the Rose, you've got the Kagare, and you got the Shizuku, which it's sort of impossible to summon both the Kagare and the Shizuku, unless if your opponent had a Link where its arrow was pointing towards your zone. Then you basically just have a way. Then you basically have a way to summon the access code. And access code is just a house. As long as you have access, as long as you're able to gain access to summon Access Kotaku, you're just off to the races there, and you basically have yet a second win con, which is really nice. And then for the Waking the Dragon target, which is actually kind of hilarious, but it's so good. And I actually mentioned this with my Dark Munition deck, which I did a profile on a while back, where the deck actually runs this card, and it basically acts as a anti-meta card. It is known as number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. If you guys have never seen this card before, this was originally a YCS promo a number of years ago, and it was like and it was like a $300, $400, $500 card depending on his rate. And in fact, I think both the Super and Ultra we're still like two, three, maybe $500 or something like that. Now it's only like, if you were to get it from Brothers Legends, it's only like $1, which is kind of sad. But if you guys have never heard of this card before, it's a rank 7 Dark Psychic Seas with 2,800 attack, 21 and 1,200 defense. Sorry, and its effect, and it requires 2 level 7 monsters, which is sort of generic. But if you do have, because that Dark Magician and Red Eyes are both level 7, you can actually run this card in that deck, in those decks, and you can even run it in a Kaiju deck, because I think all the Kaijus are 7, aren't they? I think most of the Kaijus are. Okay. I thought so. So Radiant and Kumongas and Kumongas are the only 8 stars, and then and then the Super Anti-Kaiju War Machine Mecha Doggeran, the original Doggeran, Gadarla, Gamseel, and Jizakiru are the. Or sorry, let me rephrase. Doggeran, Gadarla, Gamseel, and War Machine Doggeran are the only 8 stars. Thunder King and both the original Thunder King and the War Machine Thunder King are the only 9 star, and Jizakiru is the only 10 star. So I think for the most part, Red Eyes and Dark Magician are the only 2 decks you can run Diablosis. But anyway, its effect reads: once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, look at your opponent's extra deck, and banish 1 monster from it face down. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle, you can target 1 card in your opponent's grave, banish it face down. If a card your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down while you control this card, except during the damage step, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down equal to their face down banished cards. So it basically, yes, it is a once per turn, but it doubles every turn during, at the end of every battle phase, and basically it just forces deck outs your opponent, which is not good for your opponent, which is pretty crazy. So that's why I've got this card as one of the Waking the Dragon targets. There are a couple others that I can go into as well, such as the Access Code Talker, which is also pretty cool. Which is actually kind of crazy. If you have no way to go into the access code, Waking the Dragon is another one that you can go into. In fact, I think I'm gonna do 2 more, just in case if the hand traps are unavailable to me, because of the fact that people forget that Ash Blossom, Ghost Bell, and Effect Veiler they may be hand traps, but they're all tuners. So you can so if you don't have the hand traps at your disposal, you'll have the Waking the Dragons. Next up for the synchros, we got Stellar Wind Wolfrayet, which this card is insanity. This card is nuts. You can only control one of this card. Gains 300 attack each time another monster's effect is activated, while the attack of this card is less than 4,000. Once per turn, if this card's attack is 4,000 or higher, as a quick effect, you can shuffle both this card and all monster your opponent controls into the deck. So this is a great way to break boards really easily. This is sort of like the Max C version of... This is basically Max C on steroids, but instead of drawing cards, this card gains attack, which is insanity. So it's essentially like a Max C board wipe, which is really cool. And then we have probably one of the most broken cards, one of the most broken synchros in the format right now, Psychic and Punisher. I know I talked about this before on the channel, but if you guys have not heard of this card, it's an 11-star light psychic synchro with 3,500 attack and defense, and requires a tuner and one or more non-tuners. So you can basically go Ray, Rose, Ash, and you get Psychic and Punisher, or you can go Ray, Rose, Bell, Psychic and Punisher, or you can go Hamp and Ash or Hamp and Bell into the Psychic and Punisher. So as long as you still have your Surgical Striker Hamp, or both your Ray and Rose, you're off to the races from there. So the effect reads: while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this Synchro Summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points that target a monster you control, and a card your opponent controls, banish them. At the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent. So this basically just ensures that it can topple over whatever your opponent may have on board, which is just absolutely insane. And then we got the DPE, Destroying Phoenix Enforcer, because DPE is just a fucking house. It is a house. Not too much to say about that. Moving on into the side deck. This is just my preference anyway. But I've got the second Kaina in the side. We got the two pot of Avarice, as well as the 2 pot of Acquisitiveness. Just to ensure that if you don't have any more, just in case if you don't have any more access to Ray or Rose, you can just bring them back into your deck and draw 2. And then the Acquisitiveness, you can bring Ray and Rose back from the Banished Palette into the graveyard, which will give you access to go into the Avarice, and you get to draw a card off of that, which is really nice. We got the third Shark Cannon. We got the 1 Vector Blast. This is a weird one, but it's actually not too shabby. So the effect reads, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, each player sends the top 2 cards of their deck to the grave, or as many as possible if less than 2. Then, if you send at least 1 card to the graveyard, and you have 3 or more spells in your grave, you can shuffle all all your opponent's monsters from the extra monster zones into the deck. So this is just a way to just compulse your opponent's board back into their main deck, back into their extra deck, and it's good. And it would take them even longer to reestablish their board. In which case they would just scoop easily, which is pretty cool. We got the second afterburners. We got the one eagle booster, which is a bit of an odd one. So the effect reads: if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target face up on the field, that target is unaffected by card effects this turn, except its own. And if you have 3 or more spells in your grave, it cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. So this is just a way to protect. This is a way to protect your access code talker, pretty much any of your extra deck pretty much any of your monsters from being targeted by card effects or to be destroyed by battle during that turn. It's a nice little battle trick, but still it's not too bad. And then of course we got the one Hercules base, which is not the best one, but it is what it is. So the effect reads: activate this card only if you control no monsters in your main monster zone. The equipped monster cannot attack directly. It can make a second attack on monsters during each battle phase. If the equipped monster destroys a monster by its attack, while you have 3 or more spells in your grave, draw 1 card. If this card is sent from the field to the grave by a card effect, you can target up to 3 Sky Strikers cards in your grave, except this card, shuffle them into the deck. So this is just another version of Pot of Avarice, where instead of 5 monsters, it's 3 spells and you don't get to draw, which is kind of odd, but it is what it is. And then to round out the whole deck itself, we got the 3 Forbidden Chalice, which is basically your, I guess you could say it's your alternate for Imperm. So if you don't have access to Imperm, then Forbidden Chalice is basically the next best option, which is pretty cool. And then 2 copies of Solemn Warning, just because Solemn Warning is Solemn Warning. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck profile as much as I did. If you guys did and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.